Breaking news, Senator Cassidy is voting in favor of Bobby Kennedy. Senator Young is voting in favor of Tulsi Gabbard. Your reaction, Coach Tuberville?
That was always going to happen. Sometimes people like to be relevant up here, Charlie. They see the same information we see. It's just unfortunate that we hold people's feet to the fire when we shouldn't, especially as Republican on Republican. But it's done. It's going to be over with. We'll get them on the floor and hopefully get them at least 51 votes and get them to work.
So that, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but it looks as if we're going to have every one of Trump's selections put into the cabinet. Is that fair to say, Coach, that he's going to run the table?
Fingers crossed. And, you know, again, people want to do their due diligence up here. But as I've told them on every nominee that comes up, listen, President Trump's vetted all these people. He's not going to bring somebody in that he doesn't think can do the job. Oh, by the way, if they don't do the job, he'll fire them. It's not like that we're Democrats that we're going to keep putting up with nonsense and people that are not relevant and can't do the job. So, these are some great people, Charlie. They're out of the box. They're not politicians. They're not people that are just steadfast on doing things the same way. RFK Jr., for instance, he got President Trump millions of votes from millennials because he wants to clean up our food supply and make America healthy again.
The smart guys in the media, I put in air quotes, were saying there's no way these guys get through. We got them through. There is a pattern here, and it really started with Hegseth. Coach, I believe I saw you at Pete's swearing-in ceremony, if I'm not mistaken. It was a kind of a whirlwind morning. I came over and said hi. Everything changed with Hegseth. Walk us through that and the significance of getting Pete across the finish line and how that set the pattern for Trump running the table.
Well, first of all, I think at the end of the day, he was going to be the hardest to get through because they thought they had all kind of dirt on Pete. They said he wasn't a general. He hasn't been in the Pentagon. But guess what? He's from a different era. He's from the recruiting era. He can communicate. And that's what I like about Pete. And I told him that. I said, listen, whether you can do the job or not, that's going to be up to you. I like your age. I like you're able to communicate to the warfighter. You've been in 2 wars recently. You haven't been sitting in a desk worrying about who's going to open your door and go get your lunch for you in the Pentagon. You are perfect for this job. And you can just see him. He's got all kind of energy all over the border. Today's meeting with some of the combatant commanders here in Washington, D.C., he will do a great job. But at the end of the day, Tom Tillis held out, and I was a little bit worried there at the end, but there's no way that he could have voted against Pete Hegseth and sent him, the other way and not confirmed him. And so, but at the end of the day, it all worked out.
The president deserves credit here for putting forth change makers and disruptors and for standing by his nominees. Somebody else who deserves credit is Vice President J.D. Vance. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of how the vice president has been working the calls, working the phones, and doing some meetings to try to get these cabinets the approval of the U.S. Senate?
Yeah, well, first of all, he's been over here in the Senate buildings, walking around some of the nominees, going from office to office. He's been on the phone talking to people that have doubts on whether they're going to vote to confirm. So JD's been a great communication piece from President Trump all the way over here to the Senate, and he knows all of us, and he's been with us for almost 2 years, and it's really worked great. Again, JD's a great communicator. I think everybody's seen that, but he also has been in the military. He has done things out of the ordinary. He's kind of a different type of senator that didn't come from the political realm. He comes from an area across the country that was in private business. He was obviously well educated, but he was also in the military. He just a perfect scenario to be vice president. And you can tell the Democrats and the mainstream media hate him because he can come back right at them with any kind of response on any kind of item that they try to pin him up against the wall with.
So Coach, in front of us, we have a pretty miraculous, looking back a couple weeks, and now we are seeing the legislative agendas start to get more clarity, what can we expect out of the U.S. Senate? We know about this one big bill or two bills, but there has to be other smaller pieces of legislation that you are working on, other topics. Give our audience some idea of the legislative calendar, because this is precious time right now. Once you get the cabinet through, we need to start to deliver for the American people through Article 1 and Article 2 working together.
Well, exactly, Charlie. And the thing that I'd like to bring up is, as senators, we've got the floor. We can get things passed. We can get things at least to the floor of the Senate where they get a vote, where Schumer, he'd never bring anything up. For instance, I got a good example. Twice I had a vote on the Senate floor in the middle of the night, by the way, at what we call a vote-a-rama on sports, Women and Girls in Sports Act, the transgenders, biological boys playing against women. Tomorrow, President Trump, I'm going to the White House. He's having Title IX Day and having some over that have some things to do with Title IX. And we're celebrating that. But I need to get that to the floor. He's got an executive order blocking men and women's sports, but we have to make it law, because if we don't, the next Democrat president comes in, they'll just go right back to letting biological boys play against girls' sports, and they're going to ruin it at the end of the day. So it's small. It's not a small thing, but it's things like that we can get to the floor. The one thing that we have to do, though, is we have to get this reconciliation going and get these jobs and tax cuts permanent. We've got to do that, because if we don't, we'll lose the House in 2 years, and President Trump's hands will be tied. So we've got to get the reconciliation bill done in a hurry.
There are reports that we know Pete Hegseth is on the border, that military aircraft is doing reconnaissance and surveillance flights over the interior of Mexico. If President Trump were to approve surgical military strikes against the cartels, what would your reaction be to that, Coach?
Oh, I'd be for it 100%. They have killed thousands and thousands of Americans. The cartel of pushing drugs, not just fentanyl, but all kind of drugs across our border, human trafficking, the rapes that are going on, the murders even before these young people or people coming to the border have died because they're because of the costs that they can't pay when they get to the border to pay the cartels. And then a lot of them are sacrificing their families to get here. And once they get here, they have to pay the cartels thousands and thousands of dollars through the mail. And if they don't, their families' lives will be lost by the cartel because they hold them accountable. There's so many things going on. Mexico can't handle it. Of course, Mexico is a very corrupt country. We know that. But I don't know whether President Trump would do that. I would be all for our military helping the Mexican military overcome the cartels, because it is a disease that has affected Mexico and the United States for many, many years.
Look, I mean, I think it's morally very simple. If we are willing to provide cluster bombs to the Ukrainian army to fight Russia, if we are willing to send American missiles into the interior of Russia, why would we not be willing to strike the cartels that have killed our kids? You can have mixed opinions about Russia. We're no fans of Russia on the show, but they're not killing kids in suburban Birmingham right now. Russia is not killing kids in Scottsdale. The cartels are. And I think it's long past time that we wipe them off the face of the planet. You've been vindicated really quickly, Coach. We have a minute remaining. You've been vindicated as we've now stopped the practice of subsidizing abortions in the U.S. military. You took a bunch of income coming for fighting for life by blocking these promotions. Tell us about it, Coach. Congratulations. This is awesome.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Charlie, for standing up with me when even the Republicans came after me.
We had your
Lindsey
back 100%.
Graham. Yeah, they all came after me after about 9 or 10 months. It's like, what are you doing, Coach? You can't hold these promotions up. Yes, I can. You can't break the law like Biden did. And what they did is they started paying taxpayer money to military for getting abortions for their travel. So at the end of the day, President Trump stopped that nonsense last week. But again, that's something else that we have to get voted on the floor to make a law, so the next Democrat president comes in, he can't change the executive order.